Hi everybody, welcome to part 1 of this module on graphs and statistics. The material in this module and the other 3 is taken from a series of workshops that were run early this year, specifically for workplace tutors and managers. And these particular modules are designed to refresh people's memories and also to allow those who weren't able to attend to get an idea of the kind of content that was involved in those workshops. In particular, this module is looking at examining a rationale for developing statistical and graphing skills in the workplace, and really answering that question: why should we be delivering statistical content within a workplace literacy program? There are 3 kinds of lies: lies, damned lies, and statistics. Mark Twain. You can see that Mark Twain put statistics right up there with lies and damned lies, and it would seem to me that Mark Twain has a skepticism of statistics, and perhaps Mark is under the impression that statistics are sometimes used to obscure certain facts and accentuate other facts for the purposes of somebody's agenda or bias. I would argue with Mark Twain, and I'd like to challenge this statement. We'll come back to it at the end of this module. I believe personally that statistics are a tool for representing the truth or data, and as such it's not a tool to lie and obscure, but rather a tool to reveal and communicate. So I'd like to change your thinking on statistics by the end of this module, and we might come back to this at the end. There's been a recent discussion in the compulsory sector around the purpose of mathematics education, and a lot of voices have been calling for an increased emphasis on the role of statistics in normal education. And the reasons for this are that as adults mature and begin their working careers, they're bombarded by statistical information constantly in the workplace, via the media, newspapers, so on, health information, usually communicated via statistics. And so they need to be critical users of statistics and able to navigate that information. So rather than the traditional pathways of number, pre-algebra, algebra, calculus, there's voices that are recommending an increased emphasis on statistics. And if this makes you slightly nervous, as it does the baby, you can set your mind at ease. Statistics follows some fairly well established methods, and it's really not that difficult to master, and it's great to share this information with other people. It's a really satisfying subject to use, particularly in workplace contexts. Understanding statistics. Statistics help us to explain things. In essence, statistics is a language designed to help you express things and also to understand. Statistics provide agreed methods of presenting information. Something that tends to happen as you become more sophisticated in your understanding of statistics is that you move from just being skeptical or not believing particular statistics to critiquing the methods that were used to analyze the data. And so as people become more sophisticated, their critique of the methods will also become more sophisticated. Because statistics is a language, they sit well inside the literacy and numeracy framework. Statistics in the workplace. The question is the ability to understand statistical information presented via graphs and charts important in the workplace? And I'm sure most of us would agree absolutely that it is. But there are 3 trends happening at the moment that will continue to support it. The first is that increasingly industries are using statistical control processes to monitor production and ensure maximum efficiency. Now, I don't think this is particularly new, but it seems to be on the rise. Statistics are a method that companies use to analyze efficiency and production, and therefore it's necessary that people understand these statistics and how they work. Secondly, frontline employees are often required to collect the relevant data. So you have employees who are collecting data, and it's imperative that they understand what's happening with this data and their role. It's part of an ethos of workplace literacy practitioners generally that when they leave a company, the employees they've been working with understand their role within the wider aspects of that company. So they get a picture of where they fit and what their role is, and this increases ownership and also increases loyalty to the company. The same argument can be used exactly for statistics. You need to know what these statistics are being used for, how they're being interpreted, and what the purpose is. Finally, data from charts and graphs in particular are used to make key decisions. So the data that is then analysed is put into graphs and charts, and this is how it's fed back to people, and depending on what's on these charts and graphs, often these will determine the outcome of decisions that are made. So by teaching statistics in the workplace, there are a few stakeholders that you're supporting. Number one, you're supporting the individual employees. So you're helping them to understand where they fit within a company, how statistics and graphs are affecting them, and how those statistics are put together to create decisions, or decisions based on them. The second thing is the company also. The company benefits from this. Now employees have ownership, they understand their role in the company, and they understand how statistics are being put together. And a good example of this is the Thames Timber Company, which is also online, and how employees who began to understand various aspects of the company via statistics felt much more empowered to make a difference about those statistics. So therefore the company gains as well. So the employee gains, the company gains, and this has economic and social benefits. So statistics is a really good justification for using this in your workplace literacy programs. Statistics and critical numeracy go hand in glove. Social, economic, environmental and scientific information are presented to the public via statistical means. They link us to the global community, usually through the form of graphs, tables and charts. If you think about it, the information that you receive through the news, the media, is usually framed in statistical terms. Therefore, adults must have the skills and knowledge to critique mathematical information presented in graphs and tables. And I would argue this is particularly true in the workplace, as the workplace is vitally important to the individual employee. Critical numeracy has been argued to have been made up of 4 different aspects that we'll go through very quickly. So somebody who is critically numerate has the ability to critique or make critical interpretations of mathematical information. They also have the ability to unpack, interpret and decode mathematical situations. So if they're presented with information, they are able to critique it accurately, and they're able to unpack it. They look at the way that the data was generated, how the samples were put together, to interpret and decode the entire situation. They're also able to use mathematics in a self-reflective way. So just as an example of this might be whether or not to join KiwiSaver, whether or not you have the right insurance scheme, and so on, whether to put something on HP or put down a larger deposit right now. And all of these things of course flow into the fourth, which is the ability to use mathematics to operate more powerfully in the world. So in short, a person who is fully critically numerate is able to critique things accurately. They're able to unpack the original data, interpret and decode those mathematical situations for themselves. They have the ability to use it in a self-reflective way, and this will help them to be more powerful in the world, to operate more powerfully. For example, creating more powerful budgets, project plans, timelines, and so on. And when I think back to that quote by Mark Twain, I can't imagine somebody that possesses these 4 skills falling for statistics, being a victim to having the wrong information given to them. because the person who has these four would be able to critique it, unpack it, use it or not use it, their choice, and also to operate more powerfully in the world with this information. So I believe that being critically numerate is the antidote to what Mark Twain was suggesting about statistics. So what do we want? When we're working in the workplace and we have employees with us, what do we want them to be able to do? We want to support employees to be able to do this. Initiate quality questions. So when they have data that's represented via a graph or a table or a chart, or perhaps just in percentages or proportions, initiate quality questions. Generate those questions. And we're going to look at some of those questions in part 4 of this series. We also want them to identify limitations and strengths of the data. So this means them not just becoming skeptical of all data, because that wouldn't truly be critical. We want them to identify the strengths and the downsides and weigh that up. All data will have strengths and limitations. We want them to reflect on the information and then start the cycle again. So in summary, statistics is a language for conveying information, and it's a preferred method for communication. Businesses make decisions based on statistical information. Understanding statistics promotes engagement and ownership, and critical numeracy has a strong relationship with statistics, and I would argue therefore that it fits perfectly within a workplace literacy program. It meets the needs of the stakeholders involved, and it has really wonderful outputs as well. I recommend that if you're a little bit rusty on your statistical skills, that you would watch part 2 and part 3, and then part 4 will have strategies for how to teach this material, how to use it in a workplace context. Thanks for tuning in, and good luck.